Hey everybody, Bill Owen from MNPC Tech. How you doing? Our first official live stream, and I hope it's first of many more. I've got a special guest in the workshop today, Mosquito from Mosquito Mods on YouTube, and also the modzoo.com staffer. What we're looking at today is the new Inwin 301 micro ATX case. Newegg just released these yesterday. Newegg.com for $69.99 plus shipping. And if you're familiar with Inwin, you know that their cases are really top-notch quality. So as we do this live stream, you're welcome to post questions, and we're going to do a tour of the case, the outside and the inside, and we're going to try some different DIY liquid cooling combinations, because I know a lot of you that are fans of MNPC Tech and the Modzoo do your own liquid cooling loops. So we'll try to keep on top of the comments as they roll in as best we can, and we'll just start our tour here with the first thing I noticed about this Moss is this glass tempered side panel, and it's a different design than what we're used to seeing.
It's true. This one you don't have thumb screws for. So for those that don't know, a lot of the tempered glass side panels, you end up with little thumb screws like this, and then hopefully a little rubber washer in between that and the glass, and then that's about it. There's just a post that you screw that thumb screw into that goes right through the window. But this one actually has a frame on the bottom and the top, so no more thumb screws.
No more thumb screws for a tempered glass side panel, Moss? This is a landmark in our industry that we're witnessing.
I like no more thumb screws.
Yeah, I don't like it. Was a pain in the butt. You had to line them up, and
you'd be scared that you were going to tighten it too far and just explode the panel,
or drop your tempered glass panel. And what happens when you drop a tempered glass panel?
You don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
You having had that experience before, I didn't drop a tempered glass, but I had a piece of tempered glass explode due to an over-tightened screw.
What?
And it just goes everywhere. Like, it literally, there was a pop, and it just exploded, and there was glass everywhere in the room. I was vacuuming for probably an hour straight, and this was in my dorm room in college, so it wasn't big. But it was just like you'd run the vacuum and you hear, oh my God.
And there's still going to be tiny microscopic shards of glass that at some point you're going to want to be barefoot, walk across the carpeting, and suddenly I got this weird,
So don't go there. Get one of these.
So let's take a closer look at this, because this is an all new design with a real cool quick release latch built into it.
Yeah, so on the bottom, you have a little strip here. And it's just like a little plastic shroud that covers the end of the glass. It's stuck to the glass. You can kind of see the strip there. But it has these two little tabs. So there's one here, and then the same thing on the other side. And those go into two notches on the bottom of the case. And then in the top, you have a little latch here. So what you can do is just set those two bottom tabs in and then push.
Oh, that's nice.
Done. Easy. And I think it looks cleaner even than having the thumb. I mean, like with things like the D-frame and the D-frame Mini and the D-frame 2.0 and stuff like that, the thumb screws work, but I feel like that would sort of ruin the look.
And everybody's doing it, so Inwin's got to be the innovator that they are and keep creating new things and new features. And
because obviously it's pretty clean. You know, there's nothing really to the front apart from
Ramon
your
says
IO.
It's too dark though.
To the glass?
Yeah.
Well, put some lights behind it.
Yeah, Ramon, you know how to put some RGB in your builds.
Or just white lights. Just white lights. They're okay too.
Yeah, white lights would be cool in here.
Or just single color.
I like the tint. I think it gives it character.
I almost always go with a tint for my windows. The only exception I think was, I don't even remember, and I think it was a mistake. Oh, the visible contrast, the one that I did with the LCD panel on the side. That's the only thing. That's the only time I used non-tinted.
But that made
plexiglass.
Total sense. Yeah.
So anyway, that's how you take off the side panel. And something else that's kind of neat is they have these little dots all around the top and the
It's like the gradient you'd see on your windshield, like a visor from the factory.
Yeah, and it effectively hides all of this. So you don't have to look at all those screws.
Yeah, that's clever. I like that. That's very clean.
Yeah, and like if you have a hard drive in there, a mechanical drive, you won't see much of that either through that. So that's really kind of cool. And I just love this latch because you can just, I mean, that's easy. Gotta love it.
What if you're modding and really want to show off the inside mod? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could, I think that you guys could come up with a clear panel, because the nice thing is, as Moss described, is that the panel is like cradled with inside the chassis. So you could easily come up with a clear panel mod for that, I think.
And honestly, if you wanted to try hard enough, I bet with a heat gun, you could unstick the adhesive on the glass, and you could probably even get these panels out and then just replace it with a chunk of acrylic or regular panel glass.
I think you just came up with a tutorial that's going to be huge.
Oh boy. I mean, then you could make whatever color you want. You know, you have a red window, a blue window, clear.
I personally would go acrylic because it's just easier and cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Use a heat gun to remove this frame that they've created, because it looks like it's just adhesive.
Yeah, like right along the bottom here.
Yeah, there's the adhesive right there.
I don't know, that could be fun.
Well, there you go. There's the first mod already here in history for the Inwin 301 is swap out the tempered smoke glass for clear acrylic, or a tempered clear glass instead that you could get. Like, and where does somebody go to get tempered glass? At the hardware store or what?
Hardware stores, in my experience, don't often carry their own tempered glass. Usually they only have standard panel glass, like the glass that you would have in your everyday windows or something like that. I did go to a hardware store looking for tempered glass because I was building some shelf things, and pretty much everything that I was able to find that would, or everywhere that I could find that would do tempered glass, only farmed it out. So they would take your custom order and then they would bring it to a glass shop who would then cut it and then make the tempered glass to whatever size you want. Because it's a much different thing to work with than just a sheet of regular plate glass or float glass, because it doesn't cut the same way. With plate glass, you can just score it and then snap it. I mean, it works very much like acrylic that way, but you're not going to do that to tempered glass, because when you do, it's just going to blow up in your face, kind of literally. But I don't know. I think acrylic would probably be the best option if you did want to replace your side panel, and if you didn't want to mess around with taking off these two plastic bezels, I guess I'll call them, on the top and the bottom. I bet you that you could also make your own out of acrylic and just put two little magnets, you know, on the top corners and then two little magnets on the bottom, and then it would hold it in just like a lot of other standard, I guess, acrylic full cover side panels. But just make sure you still have a way to get the panel off, because that would be interesting. You get your panel on there, and how am I going to get that? Oh, you got to get a screwdriver and pry it out. But yeah, I don't know. I think that would be actually a pretty cool tutorial. We might have to do that, Bill. Skip the review.
Great idea, man.
We'll skip the review. We'll just do that instead.
I honestly feel at $69.99 that this case is going to be really successful for Inwin.
And it comes in two color options, right? So this is the white exterior with black interior and blue, we think, blue lights.
Yep, that illuminates blue, the whole I/O panel there, and the ports too.
And then it also comes with a black exterior, and that's also black on the inside too, right? Mm-hmm. And then you said that was red.
It has red trim on the front. Paskowitz, how you doing? Yeah, he says, I don't know if it's going to work for like SLI setup, gang.
It could.
Think so?
I mean, you're going to run into the standard problems that you run into with SLI, where your top card, you know, might be starved for air because you can't spread them out. But there is mesh on the bottom. Which way should I go? This way looks good.
Here, I can take this.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant. That's right. I just called Bill my assistant. So there is mesh on the bottom, filter, and then you have very, very open honeycomb. I mean, this is, very large opening. So your bottom card would definitely not be starved for air by any means, so that would be all right. But you just have to make sure you have the right motherboard, because if you have, say, for example, PCI X16, PCI X1, PCI X1, and then PCI X16, yeah, then you're kind of screwed, because there's only 4 slots.
Well, do we have a micro ATX motherboard available to give them an idea of how much space is available?
We might.
He just happens to have a Griffin on hand.
Yeah, don't ask me why this isn't in a computer, because this used to be right about there. So this was the motherboard I was going to rebuild my desktop with back when Z79 was, or Z97 was new. So that'll give you an idea for how long I've not used it. But
so we've only got 4 PCI slots, and it's literally right on the floor of the chassis.
Pretty close, yeah. If we were to put the screws in the standoffs, it'd be about there. So as long as your card isn't more than 2 PCI slots wide, which, I mean, if you're going to be running SLI on a micro ATX board, I mean, that's probably what you're going to have to do in most cases anyway. But there is room, but it'll be tight.
I wouldn't do it, personally.
I probably wouldn't either.
I would probably go with an ITX build. I know that a lot of people that are watching my videos prefer to do DIY, liquid loops, mods. Why not go ITX, buy yourself more real estate inside to do different configurations? This go with a micro, a mid tower instead of this. If you want to do SLI, it just makes more sense.
Yeah, and the other thing too is with the ITX, it's not even about that space as much. It's this, because if you're going to try and do a DIY water cooling loop, this space right here is going to be crucial, because this is about the only real space you have once you get a graphics card in there for something like a reservoir or a pump.
Exactly.
So that's probably what I would do if I was going to water cool it. But that's not to say you couldn't, because you can still fit a 240 in the front, but a 240 isn't going to cool 2 graphics cards and a processor very well.
No.
So if you had a 240 based AIO, that could fit in the front. I mean, that's I would think that would probably be a pretty common option with this case.
I'm sure that the Inwin, they're thinking AIO for most consumers that are looking at this. Let's take a look at what's going on the back side, and then we can look more at the features inside here. But let's show people how much space do we have behind the motherboard. Is there any space at all? And by the way, this perforation on the side panel, this is our main ventilation, correct?
This is our only ventilation.
Our only ventilation.
For the front.
Other than the floor.
Because you have the floor and the back, but presumably you're going to exhaust out the back. So you have the floor and this. There is nothing in the front. So the only air that gets to the front fans goes right through all of this mesh. I mean, it's not bad mesh. That's not to say that I don't think there's airflow through it, because you can see how far that's raised from the stamping. So it's got a pretty good amount of area that can have air going through it. It's just, you got to get that all through here. So keep that in mind. When
Not only that, Moss, but we don't even have a power supply installed.
No.
With the 24 pin, everything's got to get routed down here. There's no space back here.
Nope.
So that's going to conflict with your flow from that panel.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, is you just got to keep in mind that you're going to have to do everything you can to manage those cables, because there's just not a lot of space.
Cable management.
Isn't that what shrouds are for? You just hide it. You just shove them all into a tiny
Who has
space.
time for cable management?
That is, okay, this is going to make me sound really weird, but that's actually one of the most satisfying things for me to do, is build everything and then hyper organize my case cables just because
it's therapeutic. You kind of escape, time melts away when you're doing your cable gami and all that. I get it. I can understand that.
Plus, it just makes you happy when you look at it and go, yes, that is clean.
Yeah, you want to show it off afterward. That's why you want to have a work log on the Modzu to show all your progress. And I'm just that crazy to spend an entire day managing my cables in my 301.
Well, the good news is it's a small case, so hopefully you'll have very few wires to manage.
That's true. I mean, we're only going to realistically look at one video card and your 24-pin, and if you have, Intel, your 4-pin, so yeah, that's true.
Not too bad. I mean, I've certainly had cases that were worse. But yeah, you really don't get any space on the backside of the motherboard. The backside of the motherboard is pretty much just this. So about that, and that's not a lot.
No.
So unless you only are gonna...
That's 3/16 of an inch for everybody in the US.
Yeah. It's like, so I mean, if you're gonna run any cables through the backside of the motherboard, you're pretty much gonna have to single wire, you're not gonna be able to fit your 24-pin connector wires through that's for sure.
Everybody in the chat is saying, small form factor power supply, ITX power supply. We agree.
I definitely agree.
I think that's one thing I noticed with the 301 is it would have been nice if there was an option or like an adapter plate to have Silverstone small form factor power supply in there versus being dedicated to ATX. But we are modders after all, right? And to make an adapter plate isn't that big of a deal, is it? And small form factor power supplies have gotten so much bigger. You were saying that there's a 750 now by Silverstone?
Yeah, there's a 750 or an 850, something like that Silverstone was teasing. I think it was Silverstone. It could have been Corsair, but either way, one of those two. And it's just like, that's a lot of power out of a pretty tiny brick.
Yeah. Rod was saying that a lot of small form factor power supplies come with an adapter, ATX to ITX, or ATX to small form factor. I've recently got a Corsair 650 small form factor power supply, and it did not have an adapter that I recall. If not that I want to try to prove Rod wrong, because Rod knows his stuff, but
if nothing else, I know you can at least buy them independently. I know Silverstone sells one. You just want to paint it because it's standard sheet metal, but
well, maybe I didn't even notice because I didn't need one. Just seeing if there's I'm just seeing if there was an adapter plate that came with this or not. No, there wasn't. But I mean, there's got to be templates online, right? Just to make your own.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
have to. I mean, no big deal. But anyways, totally derailing off the point I was trying to make about the 301 is that it would have been nice if there was that option with this chassis to buy yourself more space inside.
Yep, because not only do you get, for that kind of power supply, a little bit less in the width of the power supply, but you also get a little bit shorter, which I think will be really nice for cable management.
Yeah, because you can tuck a majority up there.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to, well, we should probably cover the front, just so we can put that to rest. So
okay, Moss, why isn't there like a traditional bezel on this thing?
Because this is one piece for the front and the top. So this corner here is actually folded, and so it's one solid piece. So this is the frame, like, it's like what you would consider the main chassis, so to speak. And as a result, there's no front bezel, there's no top bezel. It gives you a really clean look, and it really maximizes the amount of interior space that you get out of a small exterior. And
it gets the cost down for production because they're simplifying the overall design to make, which brings it down to the $69.99 price point.
Without sacrificing on the quality of the
exactly.
materials or the finish. Because it's kind of impressive, honestly, that this is only a $70 case.
Yeah.
Because not only do you get tempered glass side panel, this is not cheap metal. Like, it's not very thin.
No. It's not flexing at all.
I mean,
it's Inwin. Come on.
And that's probably one of my favorite things about this case, is just the fact that it's not expensive, but it's not built cheaply.
Yeah. They're just eliminate some little features to get the price down. Okay, so this illuminates everybody. It's backlit, so this will be blue. Paskowitz said he didn't like that color choice of the blue. There is a red version of the 301 with, a black version with red trim also available. So those are the two color choices.
We should dig into that once we get things taken apart. I wonder how easy it would be to replace that.
Oh yeah, to cut. Oh yeah.
You know, or just whatever.
Martin's like, RGB guys, come on.
No RGB. Single color is just fine.
Martin, you're riding on the RGB bandwagon alone as you drive past us. I'm not running after you to jump on it. I was on it 2 years ago.
I bet he's I bet he uses hard lines too. Nobody uses that. Oh wait, dang it.
Right.
Anyway, what I was gonna say is you have your power, your reset. This lights up, and then you have your headphone and microphone. Although it's not labeled, so you kind of have to guess.
Only two USB 3.0.
Two USB 3.0, and they're actual 3.0. They're not like 3.1 or Type C or whatever.
Thank you. And it's all black cables. That's cool. They're not sleeve, but hey, that's fine.
They're all black, and what I like is that they're relatively thin too.
Yeah.
So they're not like the big round cables. That
well, they had to be to not consume all that space in there.
Pretty much. So with the front out of the way, we already looked at the bottom, so I think we're done on the outside.
Did we take the filter off though? Oh, okay.
There is a filter, we should say. I think we took it off when we were showing that there'd be airflow to a graphics card, but yeah, so we have a mesh filter. It slides out the side, which is nice because it doesn't slide out the back. It's about the only thing that pisses me off with bottom filters is when you have to slide it out the back because I'm not going to.
Hey, wait. Let me see something here. This shape, that's kind of weird. What's that about? It looks like a turbo.
Well, we were looking at that before, and my best guess was they took a round hole for the fan. So this would have been just a round hole for the fan. But then they said, hey, you know what we should do? We should add a positive stop. So when you go to put your power supply in, there's this little thing right here that you can just sort of get your power supply into the case.
Little tab that they bent up.
Blind because I can't see from that side.
Oh, it's like an assistant.
Yep, so you just hit that and you're right there.
Clever.
So I think that's probably what it came from.
You know, that Inwin engineer, he's pretty awesome. Or she.
Or multiples.
Multiples.
Could be 3 or 4 engineers. But yeah, so that's probably my guess. But I just like that instead of, you know, so often you'll see just like, especially cable management grommets or cable management loops, you'll just see a hole where they stamped it through. I like that it's clean and continuous.
Yeah, that was clever.
It was a good design decision. But earlier somebody was asking how many drives it can have. And the answer to that is one 3.5-inch drive on this little plastic tray. But it can also, like most drive trays, hold a single 2.5-inch drive as well. The other thing is you can also fit two 2.5-inch drives all the time without that tray, because there's these two little screwless, I guess they're screwless little tabs that go into the screw holes on the side of your SSD. So those are now in the screw holes of the drive. And so this isn't going anywhere that way. And then you just lean it up and then put your 2 other screws in the
stealth.
side. I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good use of space.
So you can put 2 SSDs or one 3.5-inch with an SSD.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Or you could do 3 SSDs if you wanted to use that bracket for a third SSD.
I love the location of that tray. I mean, you got your quick, easy latch side panel. Bang, I need to get at my SSD. Psh.
Yep. And you can also, if you mount it, you know, up here.
Yeah, but he just said my Bitfinex Prodigy holds more, but just buy a bigger SSD.
There you go. Plus, don't most motherboards these days, I mean, shouldn't you be using an M.2 drive to boot from?
Yeah.
That's what I would probably do.
Only the cool kids do.
I don't yet. But I mean, that's probably what I would end up doing. I'd probably just have 2 storage drives, 2 large SSDs or hard drives, most likely like a solid state drive, because I do mostly video editing. So I'd probably do one SSD that I could just use as a scratch drive, and then use an M.2 to boot off of, and then one long-term hard drive storage.
Yep.
And then just call it good there. But
so we have some internal shroud going on here. Is that plastic or metal?
this one is plastic. This one is metal. This is about the only plastic inside the case except for that drive tray, interestingly enough. So it's the drive tray and then this. Otherwise, this bracket is metal. Everything else in here is metal, and then you have the plastic feet and fan filter. But otherwise, it's all metal, and this is plastic for covering up cables. Let me grab a screwdriver quick. Backing up a little bit though, you do need to take out the fan bracket first.
Oh, by the way, Moss, we should note, no fans are included with the Inwin 301 gang.
Ah, yes, that's right. That's probably part of this $69 price tag.
Right.
But
admit it, you pull out your factory fans too, don't you?
that's what I was going to say, but that's okay because I don't remember the last factory fan that I used in a case. Usually they end up getting, you know...
It was that Dell computer you first bought. That's when you did.
Usually, you know, you end up cutting all the wires off of them and you use them as dummy stand-in fans like this. But, yeah, that is, I mean, got to pick your battles, right?
Right, exactly.
Plus, if you get an AIO 240, I mean, you're going to get 2 fans with that anyway.
Decent static pressure fans.
Not the end of the world, but this is a fan mounting bracket. It's slotted so you can fit a radiator, move your fans, and that just goes in here. So again, if you didn't catch it earlier, that was just 2 screws on there that you take out.
Hey, while we're at it, could we mount a radiator and some fans?
Might as well.
Because I think that's what some of these people want to see after all. They're like, Bill, I'm not going to air cool my builds. Are you crazy? I don't subscribe to your channel and air cool my stuff.
Dang Skippy. If I can remember which direction. Because we ran into needing to... We did run into having to remember to push this all the way up. So this little lip here on the bottom rests on the bottom of the case. So you just need to make sure that this little lip is not higher than the bottom of your radiator. Because that was a mistake that we ran into when we were looking at it before. But
Templar Tao says, I need to cut up my case and it isn't here yet. What did you order, Templar?
That'll make it tricky.
What did you order?
Break into UPS and start modding the case and then shows up at your door and be like, wait a minute, it looks like somebody was cutting this thing up. So what we did here, and this is to demonstrate a later point, but I mounted the fans on the inside of that fan bracket. So when I go to put it back in...
And by the way, this radiator is a Hardware Labs Black Ice GTS 240. The Stealth, I believe it's 30 millimeters thick, and it's crossflow. Or Xflo. I never remember who is the crossflow and who is the Xflo manufacturers.
Yeah. So basically... Once you get that in there, your fans are going to be in the front. They don't have to be. You could mount fan and then radiator, or radiator then fans. But I did it this way because then we can do some other fun stuff down the road. But we'll get to that once we get that far. But essentially, the idea is you can put the fans in front of the bracket or behind the bracket. But when you put it in front of the bracket, you only get about 1/4 inch of space between the front of your fan and the front of the case.
And remember, you're relying on that side panel for your airflow out of the box. So, do you own a jigsaw or a hole saw? Just something to consider.
And the good news is, modding the front would be pretty easy because it's wide open.
Yes, it's a blank canvas.
So if you wanted to make your own, I mean, that'd be pretty easy. I don't know if I would, because I kind of like the clean look.
It does look pretty. Yeah, nice and plain and simple, minimalistic.
I'd probably build it without modding the front, and then just see what temperatures and stuff
see what it's like. Yeah.
But moving into that cable shroud.
What are the Screamer server fans? The Sunon or what?
Oh, yeah. Or even those old, like, 120 millimeter 3-blade deltas. Oh. The ones that spin at about 5,000 RPM.
That people are making, like, hovercrafts from?
Exactly. Yeah, those wouldn't fit on the bracket in front of it because those are way thicker than 25 millimeters. But there are a couple of screws for this little shroud.
Only 2 screws, that's nice.
4. 4 for this one. The fan mounting bracket is only 2 screws. But then there's this little plastic cover for your wires, and that just takes 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a way that you can, you know, mount whatever you want. If you wanted to put say a reservoir on there, you could take it out, do whatever you need to do, drill your holes, mount your reservoir.
You know, and who has the smallest reservoir out there, gang? Is it
nobody?
Nobody.
You just use no reservoir, Bill.
Oh yeah, you don't really need a reservoir. You big babies. Nobody uses reservoirs anymore. Come on.
I think it's either Watercool or Bits Power has one that is basically about.
It's like this Alpha Cool.
That size, yeah. It's basically just a big, oversized pump top. Mm. That would definitely be an option.
That's an option. Okay. That's an option.
Something we looked at was DDC pump tops like
combo. This. So we've got a combination DDC with an EK-100 size reservoir mounted on top.
And it fits. You might have to get a little tricky with your fill part, but I mean,
there's that little hole in the back of the motherboard that you could maybe put a tube up through.
Yeah, there is a...
Yeah, you're right, Whaler. The SwiftTech MicroRes. I used that many years ago.
That's right.
Yeah, that little square reservoir. Yep.
So, I mean, you have options.
Options are good.
We can dig into that. I do have to say, it's really not, I don't think, a very full-on custom DIY water cooling loop friendly case.
It's not. Let's be honest here. But we love a challenge, Moss.
But that's okay, because that is part of the fun.
It is part of the fun. It's like solving a puzzle.
Dude, how did you get all of that in there? I had fun.
Exactly.
I mean, granted, there's probably a decent amount of cursing and throwing things. But, you know, that'll happen. So we already showed the micro ATX.
Oh, okay, so we got an ITX. Moss is going to install an ITX board. I will try to move up here closer. And
I'll try and keep my hands out of the way, even though Bill's screwdriver is non-magnetic.
Isn't that little hole for the 8-pin CPU cable? Good one. I could see that.
It could be. I don't know, though, because they're mostly up there. So I was almost wondering if it was intended for fan headers or I don't even know what else.
Not a bad idea, though. I could see that.
But yeah, you definitely could. Actually, that probably wouldn't be a bad idea because you're not going to be able to run it through here. So you're going to have to run it along here anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So far, I kind of dig this case.
It's growing on you. You're getting more familiar with it, and you're seeing all the different opportunities.
The more I mess with it, the more I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still going to be some shortcomings, but it's $70, and you get a tempered glass side panel and Inwin quality.
Yep. They just released this on Newegg yesterday for $69.99 plus shipping.
Not too shabby. Just in time for this.
We've got the porno star Peter North, who's a huge DIY PC builder. Do you remember from the 70s? Oh, wait, you weren't born yet in the 70s.
No, I was not around in the 70s. I could have been a result of that, but who knows?
Peter North says he's liking it. He's planning an ITX build. We're getting white out here from the... Gotta move back a bit, gang. All the white going on.
Well, It was winter. I know I'm a little on the not tan side, but come on, Bill.
So we've got this Gigabyte ITX board, G1 Gaming, Z-0639er, 104.
XL Mini Micro.
Yeah, something like that.
So basically this is to hide all your cables, so I'm going to put that back in. Just because I think we kind of covered it. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to throw that radiator in here and see what we can't come up with. Because that's kind of one of the things that I
asked Moss, hey, do you have a 240 all-in-one cooler you could bring over on your way over? And he's like, no. And I'm like, and I don't have any here. It's like, why would we even have all-in-one coolers?
That's what Bill just asked that. My answer is just no.
I'm sorry. We're not snobs or anything. We're just...
No, what I like about AIOs is they're decent, they look good.
They're easy.
And they're easy, yeah. And I've used them in builds before. My file server has an AIO on it because I wanted decent cooling. I wanted fairly quiet because back when I built it, I had it sitting in the living room right where I had my TV and everything. So I wanted it as quiet as I could. And it worked great for that. And it was only, what, like 110, 120 bucks for the 240 ones.
Yeah, I know.
And
I'm guilty of using AIOs too. I'm not.
So we're not being snobby. We're just having a little fun.
We're just having fun.
All right.
All right, so we're mounting the 240 Xflo from Hardware Labs, the GTS 240. I personally like the crossflow radiators when I do custom loops. It seems to just work out better for me and how I do my layout. I don't know, what about you? Have you ever used one?
I think they're a lot easier to bleed. Because if you've ever put a radiator in and the only way to get to the ports was by having the ports on the bottom, if you've ever tried to bleed the air from that thing, you know how much more convenient it'll be to have that configuration. And then draining too is the other big thing. Because it's always a pain, you know, you got to sit there and you got to do this thing with your case. You're like, okay, now I got to get all the water out of there and then run it back into the rest.
Especially when you've got like a quad SLI build and you're doing that.
I don't think I have ever had that many graphics cards in a computer case before. I don't.
There's no need, Moss. It's like driving a Hummer with 32-inch
low pros.
Yeah.
Incredibly off-road capable. Well, okay, incredibly off-road is a stretch, but take an off-road capable vehicle and then put it on street tires and then
dubs.
All right.
So he's putting in a 980 Ti with an EK block.
I see what happened here, Bill.
What happened?
You pulled one over on me.
Oh, you got to remove this thing. The PCI slot cover thingy.
Yep. So you have a little cover. I don't know. Yeah.
You don't like them. You know what? You know what? Usually, when you see these are associated with like the $39.99 ATX tower from some company you've never heard of before.
Kind of. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what it accomplishes apart from hiding some screws.
I guess, yeah. It's just like a little PCI thumb screw shroud.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not. It's one of those things where it's like, I mean, a screw isn't really going to stop somebody from taking your graphics card because there's two holding it in. So if they can take that one out, they can take those two out.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. It hides the screws, which to me is about the only thing I like them for, but.
Oh, you're using the Frank Bullet GPU, the limited edition from EVGA. That's cool.
Yeah, where'd that come from? I had nothing to do with that one. It's all Bill's fault.
So you can't show off your fancy thumb screws? Oh, my thumb screw sales on MMPC Tech just went down. All right, so there it is installed. The maximum video card length is 330 millimeters. The maximum CPU heatsink combo height is 158 millimeters.
Nice work.
Yes.
He can still remember stuff.
Yes, at my old age.
He looked that up like 2 hours ago.
It's the only stuff I can remember.
Stats.
Just don't ask me where my wife wants me at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh-oh. Hopefully she didn't want you at 6. It's 7 o'clock local time. And then Bill runs out the door and leaves me to wrap up.
So this is pretty slick.
I like it. It's a pretty decent setup, and if you wanted to, It gets a little crazy, but
Wait. Two 240s?
you might have to drill some of your own holes because, you know, you don't have, there's a screw mounting hole, not a slot, down here. So you might have to drill your own holes, but
It can be done. And you still got room to put the fans in there, Moss?
standard fan.
Oh my goodness. And that radiator, I believe, is
29, 28.
29 or 28 millimeters, Darkside 240.
It's the thinnest one on the market.
Hey, Paskowitz, if you're still around, or Whaler 99, we've got a question for you. We were wondering, okay, if you look at this, we're getting a lot of whiteout. This camera doesn't, for some reason, it doesn't like to stay past working hours.
Let me get that out of there and see if that helps.
We've got a 15 millimeter fan here. Yeah, and I know that they're pretty anemic for radiators for static pressure. Anybody know, Paskowitz, Whaler 99, or anybody else, a good static pressure 15 millimeter fan? Moss believes that Gelid, G-E-L-I-D, may have a good one. So, you know, if you did a 15 millimeter fan for 120, you'd buy some space. So we were just wondering about that.
I think that'd be kind of fun. You know, if you can get to your ports.
I think for a fan manufacturer to consider making a fan that thin with good static pressure would be very viable product.
I think it would require some research,
Yeah.
but I know I would probably buy some because I love making things as small as I can.
Yep.
What the heck? We'll just throw a bunch of 80 millimeter based radiators in there. I got a bunch of those lying around. But would you think you would actually run something like this, Bill? If you had, I don't think you'd be able to do the cross flow. Pretty sure you'd have to get both of your ports at the top because you can't get down here.
Yeah, exactly.
But with this size graphics card, which this is a 980, right? Or a 980 Ti? Something like that.
Yep, 980 Ti.
Well, the Waterblock that's on it is it's 980 Windforce 3 or WF3, whatever. I was guessing that meant Windforce 3, but you know, that's not a small card. So I don't know that you'd want to go a lot bigger if you were planning on water cooling, but you could. And just for reference, even with this graphics card, which is about 10.5 inches long, you have enough space.
There you go.
To get a fan and a slim radiator. Or Bill hid that radiator on me.
Which one?
We had a thicker radiator.
Oh, that big beast? Are you kidding me?
The
you want me to bring that out?
The GTX, I believe it was.
Moss.
I'm getting crazy. I know. But the idea is if you put the fans on the inside still, you could fit like a GTX. Okay, not the monster. Actually, I don't think that's a monster. I think that's an UT60. Oh no, that's a thermo chill.
Yeah, that's
TFC.
an old school classic vintage.
Man, this thing is almost as old as I am, Bill.
Exactly.
But yeah, basically, what I was trying to say was you can get a thicker radiator in there if you mount the fans on the front.
It can be done, people.
And that could be fun.
And you could use a smaller video card too. What you would call it?
Like an RX 480 or like, I don't know, are there any, well, 1050s are smaller. I thought I saw a 1070 that was an ITX card. I think MSI maybe? Gigabyte?
Yeah, those shorties.
Yeah. Or like the, like the old 970s used to be, they were about that long.
Min.
Yeah. Because it's like, if you had all that space, well, that makes things a lot easier. But anyway, getting slightly back
Zotac has a really short 1080. There's the Fury X.
Fury X's are pretty small. Those are impressively small, actually.
So, okay, so here is the reservoir pump combo that we're thinking, gang. We've got an EK-100 with a DDC on the bottom of it. And you can mount this right alongside an ITX board on that wall. There's space.
Plenty of space, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably what I would do. If I had this case and I was going to be using it to water cool, really careful, I would probably throw that system together, I mean, you'd have to use standard non-cross-flow radiator, but you do that for that one, and then you could probably use the cross-flow in the bottom still, because your port is over here and over there on this particular radiator, the Darkside. I think that'd be kind of a cool build, because then you have 4 120 millimeter radiator slots. So basically you have a 480 in a case this size, cooling a graphics card and a processor. Even if the airflow isn't the greatest towards the front, I think that would be manageable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, at least, get an idea of temps before you make the modifications. Unless you're a modder, just go ahead and dive right in. Just cut it up. Cut up the front! Give me the jigsaw right now! Where's the extension cord?
You're using it for the camera. Where's
my jigsaw? That's it! I've had it. I'm tired of looking at that.
Hole saw.
This case is dying for air.
Let it breathe, Bill. Let it breathe.
I'm telling you, right there, Moss. Let me do it. Right there.
Get one of your those turbine fans with the with the big blowhole ring on it, and that could be interesting.
We're gonna see some mods to the front of that. I know it.
I think so. I mean, it's kind of begging for it. It's a really clean slate. It's it'd be really easy.
Mod me, please. Please, let me breathe. I'm suffocating.
Do it.
I've got this SLI system, and I can't cool it.
Cut it open, Moz. Hurry, get an extension cord and that hose saw and make a hole in the front right now.
We could. Could be exciting. Live modding.
Live modding. By the way, gang, this is MMPZTech's first official live stream on YouTube. If you like it, share it, and we'll do more in the future. I'll have Moss come back, and we'll do something like some mods or other products. So just let us know if you like the format. It's fun. We love interacting with you all. Seeing some faces here. And sometimes we even stumble with things, like when I was asking about the 15 millimeter fan, and somebody said that the G-lid ones are more aimed at silent.
Hmm.
But you know what? I was trying to think, like, which computer fan manufacturers do I know offhand that I could say, hey, would you consider doing a 15 millimeter high static pressure 120 millimeter and 140 millimeter cooling fan? In fact, how about Natura?
Yeah, maybe. I know it well.
As long as it's not brown. I just don't want the brown.
Yeah, especially in a white case. It's a lot of black accents. That wouldn't look good. What if you knew a guy, just hypothetically, that had a CNC mill that liked to make things out of billet aluminum? Just make your own little
Who is this
fans.
guy? I'd like to meet him.
He might just be crazy enough to try it once, and then he'd probably go absolutely crazy.
Do you know his website?
MNPCtech.com.
Okay. Noted.
No, I don't know. It would be interesting. I would probably buy a bunch of them if we could get slim static pressure.
As more small form factor builds get more and more popular, So yeah.
So is it aimed at the hardcore water cooler?
No.
Not really.
Definitely not.
But if you're willing to try it, I think you could fit a pretty decent loop in there with ITX.
Yes.
I don't think micro ATX is going to net you more than just the front radiator, but if you really wanted to, you could. I mean, there's absolutely nothing that says just because it can fit micro ATX that you have to. So I think that's probably what I would do.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's a pretty sweet little build.
Just an FYI, gang that are watching, if you're not already a Modzu member, and if you get an Inwin 301 and do a build or some mods, share it on the modzu.com community forum. And also this morning, or was it yesterday? I'm getting old and I forgot already. I created on Facebook an Inwin 301 owners group that it's open. You're welcome to join it and ask questions there, or if you're getting this case and you're watching this at some point, you can go there and share your build or whatever. But I think that we accomplished a nice baseline DIY liquid loop configuration in the 301. Not with that bottom radiator, but the front one. That's just me. I think so. You know, considering. You know,
I think it works.
Yeah.
See, I like going for quiet, so I'd probably overdo the radiator so I can turn the fans down a little more. That's usually what I tend to go towards.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else? Is there anybody
else have any questions before we close out? Let us know in the comments.
At least for those of you that are live. If you're watching this recorded, well, then you can't really post a comment for us to react to in the video because it won't really work.
Shisha space. I just missed.
Micro ATX X99 setup with 1080 CPU and GPU going to water cooled with 120 and 240 millimeter radiator. That could work. I think that would be a little bit easier if you put the 120 in the back and the 240 in the front. Oh, that's a good point. With that ITX X99, that could be fun too. That could be a little powerhouse. That's a lot of money for hardware though.
Right. Exactly.
Well, let's see. What else is there? I think we've covered most of it. We don't really know how to get back to...
Yeah, awesome. If you do a build like that, let us know. It's cool. Also, gang, you can follow Mosquito on his YouTube channel. He's got a YouTube channel as well, and he's done a lot of different builds. And throw him a subscription or a subscribe. The Mosquito mods on YouTube, right?
Yep. Or Chris Albee, whichever.
Or Chris Albee.
I think it shows up as Chris Albee, but the original channel was... The link was Mosquito Mods. Something like that. I usually just go to youtube.com and then I'm already logged in and I'm there, so I don't really know the link.
You definitely, with this configuration, you want to have the fans drawing in air into the case. It's going to be definitely a positive pressure configuration, and you'll be pushing that warm air out the 120 rear and the power supply.
I probably want two fans.
Up and out. Yeah, you want to draw air in with this, gang, because it's just such a limited space here.
I don't think it'd be too bad, though.
Well, you would like to believe that Inwin tested it, right?
You'd think so.
I'm going to bet money that Inwin probably didn't test it with two 240 radiators.
I'm going to guess you're probably correct.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you know, it might be a shot in the dark, but yeah. But why not? The question is why not? I mean, it fits.
All right. Well, we're going to close out, gang. We appreciate you watching and liking and share the video. And let me know if you like this format in the comments, because the chat doesn't translate over to the comments on the YouTube video channel. So just post in there, yeah, let's do it again sometime, Bill. Do some other stuff. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks everybody for joining and giving us your feedback, comments, and questions. Martin, you too. Take care, buddy. And Paskowitz, Whaler, see you guys on the interwebs. Anything else, Moss, you want to close with?
I don't think so. Just don't forget about the modzoo.com. If you have an opportunity to pick up one of these cases, come over and share your build with us. We promise not to banish you to the dark ages of the internet.
RGBs will be okay. I'll just avert my eyes from the RGBs.
RGBs and AIOs are fine.
Right, we're fine. All right, everybody. Have a good one. See ya.